Lucas had always been a man of logic. Trained as an explorer for the Galactic Council, he had seen his fair share of strange creatures and mysterious planets. But even after years of space missions, nothing could prepare him for the bizarre journey he was about to embark on. The mission was simple enough, or so he thought. Lucas was assigned to a remote planet, Alos, a place known for its peaceful alien race, the Therans. They were an advanced species, and the Galactic Council had heard rumors of their unique abilities. The mission was meant to be a routine exchange, a chance for Lucas to gather information and establish a connection with these new beings. "Don't worry, Lucas," his commander, Captain Ramirez, had said before the trip. "You'll be well taken care of. We've arranged a small reward for your efforts. You'll be the first human to interact with the Therans. They promised us a special gift, as a token of their goodwill." Lucas wasn't entirely sure what to expect from this so-called gift. He imagined a small, harmless creature, something that could be easily managed during his stay. Maybe a cute alien pet to keep him company while he worked. He had a soft spot for animals, and the idea of having a friendly creature around sounded comforting. After all, space exploration could get lonely, and a pet might make the days pass more quickly. As his spaceship landed on Alos, Lucas felt a sense of calm wash over him. The planet was beautiful. Lush green forests, crystal-clear lakes, and skies that shimmered with an unusual violet hue. The atmosphere was peaceful, and the locals, the Therans, seemed gentle and welcoming. He stepped off the ship, adjusting the collar of his jacket. His boots crunched on the soft ground as he made his way toward a group of Therans waiting to greet him. They stood tall, their bodies sleek and elegant, with smooth skin that appeared to be made of some sort of shimmering material. Their faces were graceful and their eyes were large and expressive, glowing softly with an inner light. One of the Therans, a tall male with silver hair, stepped forward to greet him. "Greetings, human," he said, his voice melodic and calm. "I am Terran, the leader of the Theran people. Welcome to our home." Lucas nodded, his hands clasped behind his back. "Thank you for having me. I'm here to learn about your people and culture. The Galactic Council is eager to establish a relationship." Terran smiled, his eyes twinkling with what Lucas could only describe as curiosity. "We are pleased to share our knowledge with you, but first we have a gift for you." Lucas raised an eyebrow. "A gift?" Terran's smile widened. "Yes. It is a symbol of our goodwill. A companion to guide you during your stay on Alos." Lucas wasn't sure what he had been expecting, but the last thing he thought he would see was a woman stepping forward from the group of Therans. She was tall, with long flowing silver hair that shimmered in the sunlight. Her skin was pale, almost translucent, and her eyes glowed with an intensity that made Lucas's heart skip a beat. This was no pet. The woman stood with grace, her posture regal and commanding. Her eyes locked onto his, and Lucas felt an odd pull in his chest. There was something about her, something both serene and powerful, that made him feel strangely vulnerable. Terran spoke again, his voice calm but firm. "This is Elira, one of our most revered beings. She has been chosen to accompany you during your time here. She will be your companion and guide." Lucas blinked, trying to make sense of what was happening. "Companion," he repeated, his voice tinged with disbelief. "You mean she's not a pet?" Terran chuckled softly. "No, she is not a pet human. Elira is more than that. She is a being of great importance in our culture. Her presence is a symbol of respect and trust. She will help you understand our ways, and you will learn from each other." Lucas glanced at Elira, still trying to process the situation. She didn't say anything, merely offering a soft smile that made his stomach flutter in an unexpected way. There was something about her that was almost hypnotic, something otherworldly. I wasn't expecting this," Lucas said, his voice faltering slightly. "I thought I was supposed to receive some kind of creature, something small and harmless." Elira finally spoke, her voice smooth and melodic. "I am not a creature, Lucas. I am a being of great significance to my people. My role is to help you, to guide you in your understanding of our world. Lucas's mind raced as he tried to comprehend what he was being told. This was not the scenario he had imagined. A companion? A guide? Was she some kind of diplomat? Why had the Theron sent such an important being to accompany him? You are our guest, Terran continued, and it is an honor for Alira to be by your side. She will stay with you during your time here. Together, you will learn from each other. Lucas nodded, still unsure of how to react. He had been expecting a quiet and uneventful mission, but now everything had changed. He didn't know whether to be grateful or confused. All he knew was that this woman, Alira, was unlike anyone he had ever met. She was beautiful in a way that made him feel both captivated and intimidated. I appreciate the gesture, Lucas said, his voice quieter now. But I'm not sure I understand. Why me? Why send someone like Alira? Terran's expression softened, and he gave a gentle nod. There is much you will learn, Lucas. Much more than you could imagine. Alira stepped forward, her eyes never leaving his. She didn't say anything more, but the silence between them felt heavy, filled with unspoken understanding. Her presence seemed to fill the air with something indescribable, something powerful and alien. For a moment, Lucas stood there unsure of what to do or say next. This was not what he had signed up for. He had come to Ailos to gather data, to learn about the Therans and their world. But now he was faced with something far more complicated. He glanced at Alira again, and this time, their eyes met for a brief second. She held his gaze steadily, and in that moment Lucas felt a strange sense of connection. It was as if, for reasons he couldn't explain, he had known her forever. A bond, mysterious and unspoken, had been formed between them. But what was it? And what did it mean? Terran motioned for them to follow. Come, Lucas. Let us show you your accommodations. Alira will stay with you. You will be safe here. Lucas followed Terran, his thoughts swirling. Alira walked beside him, her presence unsettling yet strangely comforting. He couldn't help but feel that this mission was no longer about simple exploration. Something deeper was at play, and he couldn't shake the feeling that it was just the beginning. Lucas sat quietly at the table in his new quarters, staring at the datapad in his hands. He had been briefed on his mission, told to observe and learn about the Therans, but everything had changed the moment they introduced Alira. He had thought he would be given some harmless, exotic creature to keep him company during his stay, not a beautiful, enigmatic alien woman. The room was spacious with smooth, curved walls that seemed to shimmer with an ethereal glow. The furniture was unlike anything he had ever seen. Sleek, elegant, and made of materials that seemed to shift in color depending on the light. It all felt too perfect, too unfamiliar. Alira was sitting on the other side of the room, her posture still and graceful as always. She hadn't said much since their arrival. She simply observed him, her eyes following his every movement with quiet intensity. There was something about her presence that was both comforting and unsettling. It wasn't just her beauty, it was the way she seemed to radiate an aura of calm. Yet something about her made him feel vulnerable, as if she could see right through him. Lucas shook his head, trying to focus on the task at hand. The datapad displayed a series of facts about the Therans, their culture, their history, but he couldn't concentrate. His thoughts kept drifting back to Alira. The sound of movement across the room brought him back to the present. Alira stood, her movements fluid and quiet. She crossed the room with an effortless grace that made it seem as though she was gliding across the floor. She stopped a few feet away from him, and Lucas could feel her presence like a shadow looming over him. I noticed you were distracted, Alira said softly, her voice calm and melodic, yet filled with an underlying strength. Is there something troubling you? Lucas glanced up at her, startled by her sudden approach. He had thought she would remain silent, as she had done since they arrived. Her eyes met his, and for a moment, he saw something in them. Something like concern, but deeper, almost otherworldly. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do here, Lucas admitted, his voice low. I was sent here to study the Therans, But now, I don't know what this is anymore. I thought I would be getting some sort of creature to study, not a companion. Elira nodded, her gaze never wavering. I understand. I am not what you expected. But I am here to help you. I was chosen for this purpose, Lucas. You have a role to play just as I do. Lucas leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms over his chest. What role? He asked, his frustration clear. I was told I'd be gathering information about your people, but now it feels like I'm being given some kind of responsibility I don't understand. You're not just some simple companion, are you? Elira's expression softened, and she took a step closer to him. No, I am not just a simple companion. I am here to help you understand the Therans, yes. But I am also here to teach you, to help you learn something about yourself. Lucas stared at her, still confused. He wasn't sure how to take her words. Teach me? What could you possibly teach me? I'm here to study your people, no? The days passed quietly, but for Lucas they felt like an eternity. Everything on Ilos was strange, and yet beautiful in its own way. The planet was a perfect mix of tranquility and mystery. The skies were always a soft, violet hue, and the air had a strange, sweet fragrance to it, almost like flowers that Lucas had never seen before. He had been on many planets, but none had felt so alive and at the same time so unfamiliar. Elira, who had become his constant companion, remained as enigmatic as ever. She followed him from place to place, never speaking unless it was necessary, but always there, watching him with her glowing eyes. Lucas tried to focus on his mission, collecting data on the Therans, but every time he looked at Elira, he was reminded of how little he understood about the world around him. She didn't act like any guide or companion he had ever known. Instead of offering advice or practical help, she seemed to be waiting for something. There was a quiet strength about her, a calmness that made Lucas feel both at ease and deeply uncomfortable. She never pressured him to speak, but her silence was a constant reminder that there was something more to this mission than he could see. One morning, after another long day of observing the Therans and their customs, Lucas decided to take a break. He had been exploring the nearby forest, collecting samples and trying to make sense of the complex ecosystem, but it was clear that there was more to Alos than just the surface-level beauty. He needed a moment to himself. He found a quiet spot, by a stream, sitting on a large stone near the water's edge. The sound of the flowing water was soothing, and the gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the trees. It felt peaceful here, almost like the world was holding its breath, waiting. Elira, as always, was close by. She had followed him silently, her presence a constant shadow. But today she didn't say anything. She simply sat down beside him, her legs tucked beneath her. Lucas didn't look at her, but he could feel her eyes on him. Her gaze was sharp, yet filled with something that made him feel understood, even though he had no idea what she was thinking. For a few minutes, there was only silence between them. Lucas stared into the stream, watching the water flow over smooth stones. He was grateful for the quiet, but his thoughts were still racing. He was frustrated. He didn't know what he was supposed to do anymore. Everything felt like a puzzle, and he couldn't seem to find the right pieces. Finally, Elira broke the silence. You're thinking too much, she said, her voice as calm as always. Lucas looked up at her, startled. What? Elira's gaze remained steady, unwavering. You are thinking too much about everything, trying to understand everything. But sometimes it's not about understanding, it's about feeling. Lucas frowned. Feeling? I don't know what you mean. I can't just ignore what's going on here. I'm supposed to learn from the Therans, gather information. But nothing makes sense. Elira tilted her head slightly, her silver hair catching the light of the setting sun. You are thinking with your mind, Lucas. You need to learn to think with your heart. Lucas shook his head. That doesn't make sense. How can I do that? This is a mission. I'm here to observe, not to feel. Elira smiled softly. You are here to understand, Lucas. Understanding comes from more than just facts and data. You must learn to connect with what you feel, with the people around you, and with yourself. The Therans are not just creatures to be studied. They are beings with hearts and souls just like you. Lucas didn't respond right away. He wasn't sure what Elira was trying to tell him. He had always been focused on the practical side of things. He had never given much thought to feelings or emotions. They were distractions, things that only got in the way of getting the job done. But here, on Alos, it seemed like everything was connected to feeling. Every conversation, every gesture, every glance from Elira, it was as if emotions were just as important as actions. It was something he couldn't ignore even if he didn't understand it. "I don't know how to do that," Lucas admitted after a moment, his voice softer now. "I've never been good at that kind of thing. I've always been about the facts, the data, the mission." Elira looked at him for a long moment before speaking again. "It's okay to not understand. Sometimes, the greatest lessons come from the things we don't understand at first. You have been trained to think in a certain way, Lucas. But this world is different. It's more than just science. It's about the heart." Lucas didn't say anything. He wasn't sure what to say. He had never thought of the world in that way. Emotions and connections were things he had never considered when it came to his work. But now, here on Alos, it seemed like the very fabric of life was built on those things. Everything was connected in ways he couldn't explain, and no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't ignore it. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a warm glow across the landscape, Lucas sat in silence beside Elira. She didn't speak again, but her presence was a comfort. It was strange. He had never felt such a connection with someone, especially not someone so different from him. Yet, there was something in her eyes, something in the way she looked at him, that made him feel understood in a way he couldn't describe. For the first time since he arrived on Alos, Lucas began to feel that maybe there was something more to this mission than just collecting data. Maybe there was something about the Therans, something about Elira, that could teach him more than he ever imagined. Later that evening, as they made their way back to the compound, Lucas felt a strange sense of peace. It wasn't a feeling he was used to. He was used to being in control, to having a plan, to knowing exactly what to do. But now it seemed like everything was shifting. The path he had once thought was clear was now clouded with questions he didn't have answers to. Elira walked beside him, her presence always just a step behind, like a shadow that he couldn't shake. For the first time, he didn't mind. Her silence wasn't uncomfortable anymore. It felt natural, as if they didn't need words to understand each other. It was a strange bond, one that he didn't fully comprehend, but that he felt was growing stronger with each passing day. As they entered the main building, Elira turned to him before heading to her quarters. "Good night, Lucas," she said, softly, her voice gentle yet firm. "Remember, it's not just about what you can see, it's about what you can feel." Lucas nodded, though he didn't fully understand. "I'll try," he said quietly. As he made his way to his own quarters, Lucas couldn't help but think about her words. It was strange, feeling like he was on the verge of something important, something he couldn't quite grasp. But for the first time, he felt like he was beginning to understand that maybe the answer wasn't about logic or facts. Maybe the answer was somewhere deeper inside of him, waiting to be discovered. And as the night settled over Alos, Lucas couldn't help but feel that, somehow, everything was about to change. The next few days passed in a blur. Lucas felt a strange shift inside himself. His thoughts about the Therans and about his mission were no longer the only thing occupying his mind. He had come to Alos expecting a simple exchange of knowledge, but now it seemed as if the very essence of the planet and the beings who inhabited it were pulling him deeper into a mystery he didn't understand. Elira was always there, her presence quiet and constant. She followed him during his research, stayed close when he spoke with the Therans, and often sat by his side in the evenings as they gazed out at the stars. Lucas couldn't help but notice how, even in the stillness of the night, she seemed so connected to everything around her. She was never just a companion in the traditional sense. There was something more to her, something he couldn't quite place. On the fourth day of his stay, Lucas found himself walking through the compound, alone. The sun was setting, casting a warm orange light across the landscape, and the cool breeze from the forest seemed to breathe life into the air. He had just finished a series of tests on the local plant life and needed a moment to gather his thoughts. As he passed one of the courtyards, he spotted a lyra standing by a large stone statue. It was a monument to an ancient leader of the Therans, the plaque below it displaying symbols that Lucas couldn't read. He had seen similar statues around the compound, but this one felt different. There was a quiet energy in the air around it, almost like it was alive. A lyra was staring at the statue with a deep intensity, her expression unreadable. Lucas hesitated for a moment before walking toward her. "A lyra?" he called softly. She turned to him, her eyes soft yet filled with a quiet power. "Lucas," she said, her voice calm. "You are wondering why I am here, aren't you?" Lucas swallowed hard. It wasn't the first time he had asked himself that very question. He had been trying to ignore it, to focus on his mission, but he couldn't help it. Every time he saw her, every time she spoke, he felt as though there was something he needed to know, something she was holding back. "Yes," he admitted. "I've been trying to understand. I know you're not just a companion, Lyra. You've been different from the start. I just don't know why." Lyra looked back at the statue, her gaze distant. For a moment she didn't speak, and Lucas thought she wouldn't answer, but then she sighed softly as if making a decision. "I am not just a companion to you, Lucas. My people, the Therans, we are a species of great importance, but not in the way you might think. We are not simply peaceful beings who exist in isolation. We have a D." The next few days felt like a storm gathering on the horizon. Lucas could feel the change in the air, an energy that seemed to pulse, like the calm before a great upheaval. He had always been a man of reason, trained to follow clear instructions and data, but now, everything seemed more uncertain. The Therans, with their peaceful ways and ancient wisdom, had welcomed him, but there was a growing sense of danger that he couldn't ignore. Lyra, as always, stayed close to him, offering comfort without saying a word. He had learned to appreciate her presence, though it also filled him with a sense of unease. Every time she spoke, every time their eyes met, it was like she was leading him down a path he wasn't sure he was ready to walk. But now, he understood that his fate, and the fate of the universe, was tied to hers. He had spent the last few days trying to learn more about the Therans and their history, but there were still so many questions that had no answers. The more he learned, the more he realized that there were things about this planet, about Lyra, that he would never fully understand. It was as if they were all part of a much bigger story, one that had been written long before he arrived. One evening, after a long day of research, Lucas sat alone in his quarters, staring at the datapad in his hands. The information he had gathered was vast, but it was still incomplete. He had only scratched the surface of what the Therans had to offer. But now it didn't feel like enough. He needed answers. Answers that only Lyra could provide. He set the datapad down on the table and stood up, pacing the room. The walls of his quarters felt like they were closing in on him. The quiet hum of the building was the only sound, and it seemed to echo in his ears. He needed to talk to Lyra. He needed to understand what was really going on. He walked out of his room and made his way toward the courtyard where he often found her. The sky outside had turned a deep purple, and the stars were beginning to shine. The night on Alos was unlike anything he had ever seen. It was beautiful, but there was a strange, almost eerie stillness to it. When he arrived at the courtyard, he found Lyra standing by the same stone statue where they had talked before. She was looking up at the stars, her posture still and graceful. Lucas hesitated for a moment, unsure of what to say, but then he took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Lyra," he said softly, "I need to understand everything that's been happening. It's not just about observing the Therans, is it?" Lyra turned toward him, her eyes meeting his. There was a knowing look in them, as if she had been waiting for him to ask this question. She didn't speak immediately, but motioned for him to come closer. "You are right, Lucas," she said finally, her voice calm. "This is not just about observing the Therans. This mission, your presence here, it is part of something much greater than either of us." Lucas frowned. "What do you mean? What is this all leading to? I don't understand. You keep talking about fate, about destiny, but I don't know what any of it means. I'm just a human. I don't have any special powers. I'm not the one who was chosen for anything." Elira's gaze softened, and she took a step toward him. "You may not feel like the one who was chosen, but you are. You are the key to what is coming, Lucas. You have a role to play in what is to come. And soon, you will see why." Lucas shook his head, frustration building inside him. "I can't keep going like this, Elira. I don't know what's happening, and I don't know what you're asking me to do. All I know is that something is wrong, and I can feel it. The Therans are hiding something from me, aren't they?" Elira was silent for a moment, her expression unreadable. Then she spoke again, her voice low and serious. "Yes, Lucas. The Therans are hiding something, but they are not doing it out of malice. They are doing it to protect you. They are protecting you from what is coming." "What is coming?" Lucas asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Elira turned away from him, her eyes scanning the horizon. "There are forces in the universe that seek to destroy the balance, Lucas. The Therans have been keeping watch over these forces for centuries. They know that soon, the universe will be at risk. And you, Lucas, are the one who can stop it." Lucas felt a chill run down his spine. "Stop it? How? What can I do?" Elira looked back at him, her eyes filled with a deep sadness. "I don't know yet, Lucas. But I do know that you are the key. You are the one who will bring the balance back." Just then, a loud noise broke the silence. It came from the direction of the forest, a low rumble that seemed to shake the very ground beneath their feet. Lucas turned quickly, his heart racing. What was that? Elira's face hardened and she stepped closer to him. "The time has come," she said urgently. "The forces I spoke of are here. We must leave now." Before Lucas could react, Elira grabbed his arm and pulled him toward the exit. He stumbled behind her, trying to make sense of what was happening. The noise from the forest grew louder, and Lucas could feel the ground tremble beneath his feet. "What's happening?" he asked, his voice panicked. "There is no time to explain," Elira said, her tone sharp. "We need to move quickly." They reached the courtyard's exit, and Elira led Lucas toward the nearest transport pod. As they ran, Lucas saw several Theran guards rushing in the opposite direction, their faces filled with fear. He tried to ask one of them what was happening, but the guard only shook his head and continued running. Elira's grip on his arm tightened. "They are coming for us, Lucas. We need to leave before it's too late." "Who?" Lucas asked, his voice barely a whisper. "The forces that threaten the balance," Elira said. "They will stop at nothing to destroy us. We have to leave now, or it will be too late." They reached the transport pod, and Elira quickly activated it, pulling Lucas inside. The doors closed with a hiss, and the pod lifted off the ground. Lucas could see the glow of the planet's surface shrinking beneath them as they soared into the sky. "What is happening, Elira?" Lucas asked again, his voice shaking. "What are these forces, and why are they after us?" Elira's eyes were fixed on the view ahead, her face pale but determined. "The balance is at risk, Lucas, and you are the only one who can stop it." The transport pod shot through the sky, its engines humming softly as it ascended into the unknown. Lucas's heart raced, his mind still trying to catch up with the whirlwind of events that had unfolded. Just hours ago, he had been quietly researching the Therans, trying to understand their culture and history. Now everything had changed. He had been thrust into something far beyond anything he could have ever imagined. Elira sat across from him, her expression calm and composed, yet Lucas could see the tension in her eyes. He knew she was trying to keep her emotions in check, but he could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on them both. "Where are we going?" Lucas asked, his voice low. Elira didn't look at him immediately. She kept her gaze fixed ahead, watching the stars blur by in the distance. We are heading to a place where the Therans have kept the secrets of the universe hidden for centuries. It is a safe haven, a place where we can regroup and prepare for what's to come. Lucas nodded, his thoughts still spinning. The events of the day had unfolded so quickly, and he still didn't understand everything. He had learned a lot from Elira, but there were still so many unanswered questions. The forces she had spoken of. What were they? And why had they come now? The balance you spoke of. What is it? Lucas asked, his voice filled with curiosity and uncertainty. What is at risk? Elira finally turned to face him, her eyes soft but serious. The balance is the delicate harmony that holds the universe together, Lucas. Every species, every planet, every star, everything is connected. The Therans are tasked with protecting that balance. But there are forces out there that seek to disrupt it. They want chaos, destruction, and they will stop at nothing to achieve it. Lucas felt a chill run down his spine as he listened to her words. He had never thought about the universe in such a way before. He had always seen it as vast, endless, an endless expanse of stars and planets, each one separate and unique. But Elira's words made him realize that everything was intertwined, and something was threatening that connection. Who are these forces? Lucas asked, his voice trembling slightly. Who are they, and why are they after us? Elira's face darkened. They are beings of unimaginable power, forces that exist beyond the physical realm. They are known as the Karith, a race that believes in absolute control. They want to reshape the universe to suit their desires. They have no regard for the balance, no respect for life, and they will do whatever it takes to break it. The name Karith sent a shiver through Lucas's body. It sounded ominous, like something out of a nightmare. He had never heard of them before, but something in Elira's tone made it clear that they were a force to be reckoned with. How do you know about them? Lucas asked, his voice growing more serious. Elira's eyes darkened and she looked away. We've been watching them for centuries. The Therans have always known of the Karith and their intentions. We have tried to stop them, but they are cunning. They have infiltrated many parts of the universe, spreading their influence in secret. They have been waiting for the right moment to strike. Lucas swallowed hard. He couldn't imagine such power, beings who existed beyond the physical realm, capable of controlling everything. It sounded like something out of a fantasy. But the way Elira spoke with such conviction and fear made him realize that this was no fant.